First, let me introduce myself. My name is Crystal. I'm 38 years old and have been a single mother for the past 8 years. But that's a story for another time. I have 2 children. My daughter Becky, who is 16 and currently in college, and my son Raymond, who is 15 and still in school. We live in a quiet village just outside Derby in Derbyshire. Financially, we're comfortable, so money has never really been an issue for us. Becky is very outgoing. She has a wide circle of friends, both boys and girls, and gets along easily with everyone. She's always been sociable and open, not just with others but with me as well. Raymond, however, is completely different. He only has a couple of close male friends and a few female ones. He doesn't socialize much and tends to keep to himself. It's not exactly shyness, he just prefers being alone like a lone wolf. One day Becky came to me looking a bit uneasy. She asked if we could talk privately. Of course I agreed. After hesitating for a moment, she finally said, "Mom, I don't know how to explain this, and I'm not accusing anyone, but things from my drawers keep disappearing and then reappearing later. And when they come back, they're not put back properly." I asked her how long this had been happening. She told me it had been going on for about 2 months, gradually becoming more frequent. At first it was small things, but recently it had escalated. Last week even one of her dresses had been disturbed, hung back incorrectly like someone didn't know how to handle it. She suspected one of Raymond's friends but didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. I told her I'd think about it. Truthfully, I had no idea where to start. The next day I began considering possibilities. At first I thought maybe one of the boys had been sneaking around out of curiosity, but I knew them well and it didn't seem likely. Then I considered the girls, but that didn't make sense either. Their families could easily afford anything they needed, and Becky would have gladly lent them things anyway. I was completely puzzled. A week later, while at the hairdresser's, I happened to read a magazine letter from a mother describing how she discovered her son secretly wore women's clothes. She was shocked and distressed. I read it twice. That's when a thought crossed my mind. Could Raymond be involved? At first I dismissed it. It seemed unlikely. But the more I thought about it, the more certain details began to connect in my mind. I even remembered misplacing a pair of my own stockings once. When I found them again, one was damaged and turned inside out. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I called Becky and asked her to meet me at a cafe. When she arrived, I told her my suspicion directly and showed her the article. She was stunned and angry at the idea. We talked it through carefully. I explained that we weren't certain, but something wasn't right. Becky then suggested a plan. We could set up a small hidden camera in both her room and Raymond's. Then we'd pretend to go out for the day and see what actually happened. It seemed like the only way to know the truth. The following week we put the plan into action. I casually mentioned going shopping for the day and asked Raymond if he'd be fine on his own. He didn't suspect anything and encouraged us to go. That morning Becky and I left as planned, but not before setting up the cameras. After a few hours, while sitting down for lunch, Becky asked quietly, "Mom, what if it really is him?" I admitted I had been thinking about that too. I told her we'd deal with it calmly and carefully, but first we needed proof. When we returned home later, everything seemed normal. Raymond was on his computer as usual, acting completely relaxed. Nothing seemed out of place. Trying to stay composed, I went upstairs and retrieved the recording. I called Becky into her room and we began watching. First, nothing happened. Then, after fast-forwarding, we saw Raymond enter Becky's room. What we saw next left us both completely silent. What shocked us most wasn't just what Raymond was doing. It was how naturally he did it. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness. He moved with confidence, fastening everything properly, even managing the back zipper of the dress with ease. It was as if he had practiced it many times before. After getting dressed, he adjusted his hair, teasing it slightly to give it a softer, more feminine look. Then for nearly 2 hours he simply existed that way, calm, composed, almost as if he were someone else entirely. Becky and I watched in complete silence. It wasn't just surprising, it was deeply confusing. We didn't understand what it meant or why he was doing it. When the recording ended, neither of us spoke for a while. We just looked at each other, unsure of what to say or how to react. The next morning I spent hours researching, trying to understand what we had seen. I came across different explanations: identity, expression, curiosity, but nothing gave a simple answer. Was this just something he explored occasionally, or did it mean something deeper? Later that day, Becky and I had a long, honest conversation. We realized one important thing: Raymond wasn't being forced into this. He chose when to do it and he stopped when he wanted to. That told us this wasn't random, it mattered to him in some way. We agreed that instead of reacting harshly or jumping to conclusions, we needed to talk to him directly. No assumptions, no accusations, just the truth. Over the next couple of weeks we said nothing. We watched, we thought, and we prepared ourselves for a calm conversation. It wasn't easy. We were both curious, confused, and even a little anxious about what we might hear. Finally, one afternoon after school, I asked Raymond to come into the living room. Becky sat beside me. He could tell immediately from our expressions that something serious was coming. He hesitated before sitting down. I looked at him gently and said, "Raymond, is there anything you want to tell us?" He shook his head, though he looked nervous. I took a breath and continued, "We know about the clothes." His face changed instantly, shock, embarrassment, and fear all at once. Becky reached for the remote and played part of the recording. We didn't need to show everything, just enough for him to understand that we knew. When it ended, the room was silent again. Raymond couldn't meet our eyes. "I'm sorry," he muttered. I softened my tone. "You don't need to apologize for who you are. But you do need to be honest with us." He stayed quiet for a moment, then finally said, "I don't really understand it myself. I just sometimes feel like trying it. Feels different. I don't know why." Becky glanced at me, then back at him. Her voice was calmer now. "You could have told us instead of sneaking around." "I was scared," he admitted. That answer said more than anything else. I leaned forward slightly. "Listen, Raymond. We may not fully understand this yet, but we're your family. We'd rather you talk to us than hide things." He nodded slowly. "We'll figure this out together," I added. "But from now on, no secrets like this." "Agreed." "Agreed," he said quietly. And for the first time since all of this began, the tension in the room started to ease. Not because we had all the answers, but because we had finally started asking the right questions. "Your friends would probably be surprised," I said quietly, watching him. "But right now what matters is this family. Do you understand?" He nodded, still shaken. "Go upstairs," I added more gently. "Take a shower, clear your head. Then we'll talk properly." He hesitated for a moment before heading up. I followed partway, stopping outside the bathroom door. "There's a towel inside," I called. "And there are some fresh clothes on your bed. Just take your time." A soft "okay" came from inside. When he finally came into the bedroom, Becky and I were waiting. He had changed, his posture unsure, his expression nervous. But there was also something else there. Something calmer. Becky smiled first. "You look different," she said carefully. "But not in a bad way." I nodded. "Sit down, Raymond. We need to talk." He sat at the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly. "I'm not going to punish you," I began. "This isn't about that. But things can't continue the way they were, sneaking around, hiding, damaging trust." He swallowed and nodded. "So here's what we're going to do," I continued. "For a while you're going to explore this, openly. No secrets. If this is something that matters to you, then we face it properly, as a family." He looked up, surprised. "You mean, you're not angry?" I admitted. "But I'm more concerned than anything else. I want to understand you, not scare you." Becky leaned forward slightly. "And honestly, you could have just told us. I would have helped you pick better outfits," she added with a small smile. That finally made him let out a nervous laugh. Over the next few days, things slowly changed in the house. Conversations replaced silence. Questions replaced assumptions. Becky began showing him small things. How to style hair differently, how to match clothes, even how to carry himself with more confidence. At first, everything felt uncertain. But gradually the tension eased. One afternoon I suggested, "Why don't we go out together? Just somewhere simple." He froze instantly. "Out like this?" I met his eyes. "Only if you're comfortable. No pressure." There was a long pause before he nodded. That trip changed everything. At the salon he sat quietly at first, unsure of what to say. But as the stylist asked questions, something shifted. He began to respond, slowly at first, then with more confidence, asking about styles, about care, about what might suit him best. When it was finished and he looked into the mirror, I saw it, that small, genuine smile. Not forced. Not nervous. Just real. On the way home, Becky nudged me and whispered, "Did you see that?" I nodded. I did. Weeks passed and what had started as confusion turned into something else entirely. Not a phase we could label easily, but a part of him we were finally seeing clearly. He grew more comfortable, more open. Around the house he helped more, talked more, laughed more. Becky treated him less like a mystery and more like, well, like a sibling she was getting to know all over again. One evening while he was upstairs, Becky came into my room. "Mom," she said quietly, "he's happier." I thought about it for a moment. Yes, I think he is. She smiled. It feels like I have a different kind of bond with him now. We talk about things we never used to. That's a good thing, I said. A few days later Becky asked, "There's a small disco at the village hall this weekend. Can I go?" "Who are you going with?" I asked. She hesitated. I was thinking, maybe I don't go alone. We both glanced toward the stairs. Later that evening Becky sat beside him. "Hey, would you want to come with me? We could go together." He blinked in surprise. "You mean, really?" "Yeah," she smiled. "It'll be fun. And you won't be alone." He looked between us, uncertain but hopeful. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "Only if you want to go." For a moment he didn't speak. Then slowly he smiled. "I'd like that." The next day the house was full of energy. Clothes were tried, changed, adjusted, and debated. Laughter filled the rooms as Becky helped him pick something that matched her outfit. And as I stood there watching them, my two children side by side, I realized something I hadn't expected at the beginning of all this. This wasn't about losing a son. It was about finally understanding him. By around 6 in the evening they were finally ready. When they came downstairs together I couldn't help but pause for a moment. Both of them looked absolutely beautiful. We got into the car and set off toward the village hall. As we drove I glanced at them through the mirror and said lightly, "Just remember, stay together. No wandering off anywhere on your own." They exchanged a look and burst into laughter, clearly excited. Later that night Becky told me everything. They had an amazing time. Both of them were asked to dance. More than once. And Candy didn't refuse a single invitation. Even the slow dances she accepted without hesitation. "She was so natural, Mom," Becky said. "So comfortable. It was like she'd always been that way. I didn't see Raymond at all, only her. Candy." She even admitted with a half-shocked smile that Candy had shared a real goodnight kiss with one of the boys. Not just something shy or awkward but confident and genuine. By the 5th week things in the house felt completely different. One evening as I walked past Candy's bedroom, I heard quiet sobbing from inside. Stopped me instantly. I pushed the door open gently and saw her lying on the bed, her face buried in a pillow, shoulders trembling. I went over without a word, sat beside her and pulled her into a hug. "What's wrong?" I asked softly. She clung to me, her voice breaking. "Mom, I don't want to go back. I don't want to be a boy again." My heart tightened as she continued. "I've always felt this way. I just didn't know how to say it. These past weeks, they've been the happiest I've ever been. Being like this, being your daughter, being Becky's sister. It feels right. I don't want to lose that." Tears filled her eyes as she looked up at me. "I'm sorry. I just don't know what to do." I held her closer, gently smoothing her hair. "There's nothing to be sorry for," I said quietly. "Nothing at all." She looked at me, searching my face. "If this is who you truly are," I continued, "then we'll figure it out, together. We'll take it step by step as a family. You're not alone in this." At that moment I noticed Becky standing quietly at the doorway. She must have heard everything. She walked over without saying a word and wrapped her arms around both of us. With a soft smile and tearful eyes she said, "Welcome, little sister." And just like that the three of us held each other, crying but not out of fear anymore. This time it was something else. Understanding. Acceptance. And the beginning of a new chapter.